Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Bangalore Sunday Satsang. So good to see so many friendly, happy faces. This is a reading from Whispers from Eternity, a book of poems by Paramahansa Yogananda. This is called My Guru. Thou light of my life, thou camest to spread wisdom's glow over the path of my soul. Centuries of darkness dissolved before the shafts of thy luminous help. As a naughty baby, I cried for my mother divine, and she came to me as my guru, Swami Sri Yukteswar. At that meeting, O my guru, a spark flew from thee, and the faggots of my God-craving, gathered through incarnations, smoldered and blazed into bliss. All my questions have been answered with thy flaming golden touch. Eternal, ever-present satisfaction has come to me through thy glory. My Guru, thou voice of God, I found thee in response to my soul cries. Slumbers of sorrow are gone, and I am awake in bliss. If all the gods are displeased, yet thou art pleased, I am safe in the fortress of thy pleasure. And if all the gods protect me behind the parapets of their blessings, yet I receive not thy benedictions. I am an orphan, left to pine spiritually in the ruins of thy displeasure. O Guru, thou didst bring me out of the bottomless pit of darkness into the paradise of peace. Our souls met after years of waiting. They trembled with an omnipresent thrill. We met here because we had met before. Together we will fly to his shores, where we will smash our planes of finitude forever and vanish into infinite life. I bow to thee as the spoken voice of silent God. I bow to thee as the divine door which leads to the temple of salvation. I bow to thee, to thy master, Lahiri Mahashaya, harbinger of yoga in Benares. And I lay the flowers of my devotion at the feet of Babaji, our Supreme Master. This is a reading from The New Path by Swami Kriyananda, My Life with Paramahansa Yogananda. On January 5th, the disciples gathered at Mount Washington to celebrate Paramahansa Yogananda's birthday. As the function began, we went up to him individually and knelt for his blessing. After a banquet later, he spoke of his longing to see an awakening of divine love throughout the world. In a more personal vein, he continued, I never dreamt during my first years of teaching in this country that such a fellow feeling in God's love would be possible here. It exists only because you have lived up to the ideals that I have cherished and for which I believed in the company of my great Guru. Friendship in God surely was the key to our relationship with him. It implied no easygoing relationship such as worldly people enjoy with one another, but demanded of us rather the utmost that we had to give. The friendship our Guru extended to us was to our souls. To reciprocate in kind meant to strive unceasingly to meet him on that divine level. Those who clung to the desire for ego gratification could not coax from him a compromise in the pure quality of his friendship. If a disciple flattered him, Master would gaze at him quietly as if to say, I will not desecrate the love I bear you by accepting this level of communication. Always he held out to us the highest ideal to which each of us might aspire. Such perfect love imposes the most demanding of all disciplines, for ultimately it asks nothing less of the disciple than the total gift to God of himself. I used to pray to Master, teach me to love you as you love me. Chatting with a group of us one day after hours in the main office, he looked at me penetratingly and said, how can the little cup expect to hold the whole ocean of love? First it has to expand and become as big as the ocean. recently, Haridas and I were blessed to be able to take a very short seclusion, and it had been a long time since we had withdrawn completely and just gone into silence for a rather short time compared to the seclusions that we used to take. It was 5 days, but it was 5 blessed days, 5 days of heaven. And one of the things that I did during this seclusion was to read this book, The Path, The New Path, from front to almost the end. And it really did change my life. This is, I don't know, maybe the 3rd or 4th time I've read this book. But in this particular seclusion, there was a deep blessing came from reading this book. Because Swamiji, in his early 80s, rewrote The New Path. And it was about his journey to God, the journey of his soul. But this book extended that journey out in a way that included all of us. It was all of our journeys. It was my journey. It was the journey of every man's soul. And Swamiji had that gift to feel the transformation of his own soul in the presence of God in his heart and to share it with each one of us, but not just to say, look at me, you too can find God. That was Swamiji's message. He came to find God and he came to share it. And as a disciple of his great master, Paramahansa Yogananda, he took on the job of actually bringing these teachings out into the world. And it was no easy task. But with this book, each chapter, in the beginning, he goes into his life searching for God, and then he finds the autobiography of a yogi, then he finds his guru, then he finds himself a renunciate and a monk in a monastery, then he finds himself out of the monastery after Master died. He was there when Master died, and then he found himself creating his own communities. And still to this day, to the last breath, he was creating and creating and giving and giving and giving. And it was such an inspiration to me because I realized that's what our life is about. That is what the core purpose of the soul is, to find God and to share God with everybody. You know, the journey is an outward journey. There's many ups and downs. Everybody's karma is different. We're householders, we're single, we're monks, we're nuns, we're rich, we're poor, we're happy, we're sad, we're depressed, we're successful, we're failures. We're all these things. Everybody's all of these things. We're depressed, we're happy. But the real journey, that is nothing. That is nothing. That all will just dissolve as life goes on and as you leave this body. The real journey is in the spine. The real journey is the journey of the soul. The real journey is a spiritual journey, and it's a journey within. And we can only attempt that journey if we let go of all of the desires and the attachments that are keeping us bound to this earth. We need to let go. That's why this affirmation was so beautiful, renunciation. We need to let go. And I don't mean you need to leave everything and go to the Himalayas and renounce your husbands and your wives and everybody, although it's pretty tempting sometimes. But I think that wouldn't be the goal. The goal is to take our lives and take our husbands and our wives and our jobs and our money and our children and our experiences and our education and everything we have and offer them up to God. Offer them up into the light. This is what I've been given. I accept my life. I accept where I am. And from that moment of acceptance, the moment that seed of acceptance is planted in your heart, then you can start growing. Because we can't push away life. We can't wish it were different. It's not different. And we find out again and again and again, lifetime after lifetime, because the same problems keep coming back to us. And they're inside of us. We are attracting these outer circumstances because of a magnet inside of us. And Divine Mother is saying, change yourself. Don't change the circumstances or wait for them to change. Change yourself. Offer everything up to God. Everything. Don't hold back anything. Swamiji didn't hold back anything. At the end of his life, he started out as a very young man on the path. At the end of his life, he was lying in his bed. And he was in bliss. He was in total bliss. And his face reflected that love. And the Guru was with him all the way through his life. So the Guru was with him in death. And now the Guru is with him for eternity because Master told Swami he would be free this lifetime. Imagine, Nirvikalpa Samadhi, free of all the emotions, all the depression, everything that's keeping us bound, all the desires. We cling so much to the way this world tricks us into thinking that this is the way it should be. This is what you want. Society says do this. Forget all that. Be strong in yourself. This is what I got from reading this book. Be strong in yourself. You know, it is a lonely path in a certain way because ultimately you have to renounce what the world tells you that you need to be happy. And if you can't renounce it outwardly, then you need to renounce it inwardly. You need to give it to God and have Him fill you with His love. The path is very narrow and you cannot fit the world and God in the same boat. Pretty soon you'll fall out of the boat. So it's inside. It's inside. The journey is inside. But if you have God, and if you have love, if you have deep meditation, that journey is so beautiful. And you begin to glimpse at the end of the journey the castle of divine love. That's what we're all heading towards. It's a journey. And what is a journey? We're just moving along towards the goal. You know, if you have God in your life, God will never leave you. He's never going to leave you anyway. But when you wake up to the knowledge that God is in your life, it's a beautiful experience. It's a wonderful experience. He is in every aspect of our lives. There was a wonderful saint. Her name was Kamala, and she was a direct disciple of Master. And she wrote a beautiful book called The Flawless Mirror. And Master said she would be free in this life. She had a center in San Francisco, and she came to Master at a very young age. She died a very old woman. And she came to Ananda as that old woman because we took care of her. She didn't have anywhere to go. And Swami said, let's bring her to Ananda. So we brought her to Ananda. Her memory had gone. She's just a frail little woman. And put her up in a room and hired her a nurse and took care of her. And my daughter Rose and I used to go over several times a week, and Rose would read to her, and we would just sit there and she would hold our hand, both of us on either side of her. And her mind was gone, and she was old, but her soul was brilliant. And whenever we walked into that room, we felt light, and we felt love, and we felt joy. And that was not our imagination. We couldn't wait to go visit Kamala. Even Rose, when she was about 5 or 6 years, she couldn't wait to go see Kamala. Because when we were in her presence, we felt the presence of the Master. One time, after she left Ananda, and then she went to a convalescent hospital, she was all by herself in this convalescent hospital. Her husband couldn't care for her. And just think of it. This is a free soul who was a disciple of Master. And there she is in this crummy old convalescent hospital where they keep old people. Somebody had stolen her bangle, and she was just laying there, and Haridas and I and Rose came in one day and to see her, and she said, oh, you just missed him. We said, who did we miss, Kamala? And she said, Master was just here. And so what an amazing thing. You look at these bodies and you think it's real. You look at the old people and you feel sorry for them. You look at our outer circumstances and you think this is reality. But inside, she was a free soul, and she was communing with God and Master. It was so beautiful. The lady next to her was a worldly woman, and she was suffering. Her face was warm with care. We prayed for her. But she was just so, nobody ever came to visit her, and she was caught, in regrets for her life. Kamala, laying there, had nothing. They even stole her bangle. What do we need a bangle for when we have a guru? What do we need anything if we have the guru? We don't need anything outside of ourselves. We truly have to understand that as disciples. Don't give up. The journey is long. Might be shorter for some people. It seems long sometimes. It just seems, when is this going to be over? And so many things come at us. But if you have an inner life and you're holding on to the Guru's feet, you can get through anything. You can get through anything, no matter what the world says. The world will try to drag you down and tell you what you need. Well, we know what we need. We need God. And in the seclusion, it was so beautiful because the day when you're in seclusion, we were in silence. I was upstairs, he was downstairs. We met in the kitchen eating, but then still in silence. And then I would go back upstairs. And then silence all day, but long meditations in the morning, lots of chanting. Anything we wanted to do to inspire us to find anything in this seclusion. And there's always a certain blessing that comes at the end of the seclusion. Sometimes it's work. You have to meditate longer and longer, and you're restless, and you can't, but you do. You just sit there and you meditate. You're in silence. It's you and God. So I read the book, The Path, all the way through. Very inspired. I felt like Swami was in my seclusion. And then I listened to some old Kriya tapes of Swamiji way back in 83 and 82. And one thing, this is a blessing that came from my seclusion, one explanation of the higher Kriya technique that I had been at that initiation, but I listened to it and I thought, oh, I should be doing Kriya this way. And then I switched and I started doing Kriya that way. My meditations took off. And they have been ever since. It's amazing. But it was just because we took the time. We took the time to be in silence. We took the time to say, help me, I need help. We took the time. And so that one little thing, Master put it in my mind, listen to this tape, I did, it changed for me. So that's what we have to look forward to. Again, I can't stress enough that we are never alone, but we do have to put out the energy. If you want to find God in this lifetime, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of perseverance. It takes a lot of courage. And it takes a lot of energy. You have to want God more than anything. And Master, all he ever said was, love God. Love God and everything will be all right. Why do we worry? We want this, we want that. God gives us one thing, we want the other. I remember this book that I read. It was children's letters to God. And there was a little 6-year-old boy, and he was praying to God. He wrote this letter. Dear God, thank you so much for my baby sister. I'm so happy. But what I really wanted was a puppy. And that's the way it is with us. Thank you so much, but if only it wasn't this way, if only I had this, a little bit more money, then I'd be happy, a little bit more of this. It's never going to happen. The world won't give it to you. You'll always, always have the baby sister in the world. And you'll never get that puppy until you go inside and you start meditating deeper and deeper and deeper and finding that gold at the end of the journey, that castle of light, that unmistakable bliss that is ours. If we, Master said, make it to the end, and not just for sticking it out, not just waking up in the morning and saying, oh my God, okay, I can do this again, and okay, what's for breakfast, and okay, I can do this, and all the way, resisting life. We can't resist life. We have to embrace it. When you embrace it, the energy comes through, and you begin to be an instrument for that light. Everything will change in your life if you go inside and take time for yourself to be silent. Listen. That beautiful chant, listen, listen, listen to my heart song. We can't hear that unless we take time. Put God first. Maybe one day a week, you could have a half a day of silence. Maybe send everybody off. Have a half a day of silence. Go deep into meditation. Ask God, what would He like you to do this day, this week? Every morning, ask Him, what would you like me to do? Bring Him into your life. Every night, before you go to bed, be with me this evening. Be with me when I'm sleeping. Be with me. Don't leave me just because I'm unconscious. Meditate long into the night. One of the things I did in my seclusion was I said the peace and harmony prayer more or less all day long, not with tension, but a lot. The peace and harmony prayer every morning. And this is just a short time, 5 days. Every morning when I woke up, it was running in my mind. Lord, bless this world with peace and harmony. Peace and harmony. What a wonderful way to wake up. With peace and harmony and God in your heart. These are little things we can do, but they reap large results. Very large results. And what does solitude have to do with satsang and spiritual community? What does that have to do with it? You look at Ananda. When Swamiji left the monastery, first he started Ananda at the village, then he started Palo Alto, then there was San Francisco, then there was Sacramento, then there was where all these communities are popping up all over. What does that have to do with renunciation? What does that have to do with solitude and silence? Well, somebody asked Swami once, do you think spiritual communities or intentional communities can last if there isn't God in the picture? Swami said they'll last for a little while, but they won't continue because you need spirit to keep the energy going. You need God in these spiritual communities. And so when I think of Ananda, and this is just what I'm familiar with, there's probably many others, but as communities where we meditate together and go send our children to spiritual teachings and schools together and work together and serve together, every single person on some level wants God that comes to these communities. They want peace. They want an aspect of God. They all are striving for God. We all are striving for the same thing. We are all on the same journey. And so when you get a collective of people that are sincerely seeking God, not for the fame and the success and the numbers and, on YouTube and WhatsApp and all of that, when we get a group of people that are sincerely seeking God, there's power there. There's power. When I was meditating, I would go to each community, felt the power there of love for God. People that come to Ananda love God. Isn't that a beautiful thought? And that's what keeps Ananda going. And it's been what's keeping it going since 1968. And it will be the only thing that keeps it going into the future. Our generation now, I'm not going to say we're going to kick the bucket yet, but we are kind of going off the conveyor belt. We still have a lot of energy. But for the younger generation coming up, I really feel that this generation is the one that is going to make these communities spread like wildfire. Because the souls that come to our classes, the souls that come to our events, the souls that are all over India and in America, they are starting to really make a change and wanting intentional communities, wanting to get away from the influence of the government, wanting to get away from the influence of society and create their own beautiful expressions of a life lived for God. This is what's going to happen. Our generation planted the seeds, and now it's your generation that's going to water it with your commitment to a life lived in God. It will not grow unless we become so in love with God that we can't see anything else in this world. And so, spiritual communities, even here in Bangalore. You know, it's growing. It's growing. We have classes. They're filled now. We need to get a bigger space so that we can fit our yoga classes in, and all of it. You know, we just got back from Chennai. It was so beautiful. Some of you came with us. What an inspiring event that was. So many young souls. I was noticing the youth, you know, the young souls, and I say anybody under 60. Young souls, enthusiastic, happy, joyful, serviceful, energetic, wanting this center, wanting the work to grow, wanting to go deep in God, wanting to help one another. It was so inspiring. And this is what we have in Bangalore. They have it in Gurgaon, all over. But we need to do more. We need to go deeper into God in meditation. We need to increase our attunement to the Guru. And then we need to, from a natural, it will be a natural thing to just overflow into service and into sharing these teachings. When you think too much of yourself, boring. I mean, after a while, how long can you think about yourself? Poor me. I mean, poor all of us. Poor all of us, because we have not reached the Jivan Mukta state. That's what makes us poor, because we have not reached Savikam Nirvikapa Samadhi. That should make us sad. The rest of it comes and goes. So transitory. All of the blessings of the Guru will be there for you when you need it. But just remember that we're in this together. And when I read that book, Swamiji opened my heart to the possibility of really being in that wave of joy in India. There's so many souls here crying out for what Master has to give. So many souls. We need to think more in terms of spreading these teachings, more in terms of reaching out. And that's where the joy is. You know, when our community burnt down, we didn't all cry. Swami went on a joy tour. He got a bus, got a bunch of people together, and went all around the United States singing and teaching how to meditate. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, you think of these things, you hear about them, but who would do that? No, you'd go to your insurance company to get the money from the insurance, and you want to sue the person who started the fire, and you know, all of that. But no, we all got in a bus and went around and started singing. And so because of that, the community was built in such a beautiful way. So much more beautiful than it ever could have been. A lot of the old people left, but new people came who recognized what Ananda has to offer. So, thank you for being here today. Thank you